Whirligig, bottom of page 59. This is part 3 of the chapter titled Miami. When Raoul was 4, Constancia's grandmother and grandfather came from Puerto Rico to live in our house. All day the grandfather played dominoes in our kitchen with the man next door and argued about politics. He also liked to watch soccer on TV. His hearing was bad, so the TV had to be loud. The grandmother was always telling Constancia how to take care of Raoul. Feed him more plantain, like in Puerto Rico. French fries are very bad for the stomach. We taught Raoul English, but the grandparents didn't like this. We talked to him in English. They talked to him in Spanish. Constancia's mother tried to keep everything peaceful. Impossible. It was like a war in our house. One night on TV, I saw a picture of a bird flying over the ocean. The announcer said this bird lives almost all its life on the ocean. He said it was called a shearwater. I wished that I could be that bird, live alone, far away from land, no other birds around. Very peaceful. I had a cousin in New Jersey. He moved in with us. 17 years old. Constancia's mother wanted him to leave. He was always playing rock and roll on the radio. He stayed out at night very late. I saved enough money for a car. The first time he drove it, he had an accident. We had a big argument about it. Then I lost my job. All day I was home with Raoul. I tried to play with him. Constancia wouldn't let him play in the street or even on the sidewalk. He couldn't ride in the car unless he wore a special charm around his neck. So think about why that might be. I looked for a job, but couldn't find anything. Our money got very low. Constancia started bringing in money by taking care of babies for women who worked. First it was 2 babies, then 3, then 5. There was always a baby crying, and the grandparents yelling, and the TV loud, and rock and roll loud, everybody arguing. One morning, very early before it was light, I got in the car and drove. Not driving to look for a job, just driving. I got out of Miami. Drove through the Everglades, very peaceful. I rolled down the windows. It felt great. I drove 2 hours across to the Gulf. I parked at a beach. I walked out, watched the waves. No one was there. A little breeze off the water, very quiet, very nice. After a while I got hungry. I got back in the car and drove farther. I came to a town. I walked out on the pier. Nailed to the wall of a restaurant was a little marching band made of wood. An arrow under it pointed to the front door and said, "March on in." I went in and ate breakfast. Then I walked to the end of the pier. It was still early and cool. I saw people getting on a fishing boat. Then I remembered the shearwater bird. I'd been thinking about it for months. They said you couldn't see it from land, you'd have to go on a boat. I asked the captain if he'd ever seen one. He said, all the time. I told him I didn't want to fish, I only wanted to see a shearwater. He let me on for half price. We left. Everyone else was busy getting their poles ready. Not me. I stood up at the front looking for the bird. The captain would stop to let people fish, then start up again. I looked back. I couldn't see land. That felt good. I felt like a shearwater. The sky was clear. The water was very calm. We went farther and farther. Then the captain called to me. He pointed. Following the boat was a flock of birds, diving into the water, fighting over fish, stealing fish from each other, very noisy. He said those were shearwaters. I watched. I couldn't believe those were the birds I'd been dreaming of. They followed us a long way. I felt sad all the way back to land. I got off the boat and walked down the pier. I came to that wooden marching band. I stopped and looked. There was a trumpet, trombone, clarinet, and drum. Birds don't live alone, I told myself. They live in flocks, like people. People are always in a group, like that little wooden band. And whenever there's a group, there's fighting. If the people in a group get along, maybe they'd make good music instead of arguing, like Willie Colon's band, but usually not. That's how life is. I stared at that marching band. Then I got in the car and drove home. That was last year. In summer, I got this job driving the street sweeper. 2 o'clock in the morning until 10. Very peaceful during the night. Then the sun comes up, the traffic starts, everyone's in a hurry, cars honk and go around me. All that will start in an hour. I'm ready for it. I always bring a tape player. I'll put on some music. Willie Colon's band. That is where we will stop for today, and I'm going to give you a question to answer. Thank you.